Have you ever met someone, did everything go really beautifully? The conversation was flowing, she was smiling, she was showing you interest, but at some point you notice that one name keeps coming up in your conversations, her ex. Or have you had this feeling? You're spending time together, everything is nice, but that guy keeps coming up in conversation. It feels like she's still living in that relationship, in those memories. Bro, that feeling is really uncomfortable, isn't it? Because you don't fully understand what's happening. You tell yourself, maybe she's just mentioning him casually. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe this is normal. But that small voice inside is saying, something is going wrong. And today, we're going to talk about exactly what that voice is trying to tell you. What is a zombie ex? How do you recognize one? And what should you do in this situation? If you're ready, let's begin, brother. First, let's understand the concept of zombie ex. This concept refers to an ex who has died in real life, but is still mentally alive somewhere, still stuck in that relationship. Someone who is physically separated, maybe months or even years have passed, but emotionally and mentally hasn't been able to close that relationship. And this situation doesn't only harm that person. You too start living and continuing in the shadow of that relationship, because you can't connect with someone who isn't truly present. Now, I'm going to explain these signs to you one by one. And let me say this, while reading these, listen carefully not to judge someone, but to understand the situation. Because we're not saying all women are like this. We're talking about a specific behavioral pattern. And seeing this pattern protects you from unnecessary loss of time and emotional energy. First sign, she talks about her ex way too much, both very frequently and in very much detail. Bro, this is a very clear sign, but most guys brush it off thinking, she's just an honest person. Yes, talking about past relationships is normal. Everyone has a past. But everything has a limit. If her ex's name keeps coming up constantly in the first weeks after you've met, if every conversation somehow connects back to him, if you frequently hear sentences like, he used to do this, he would say that, he didn't like this, that's a warning sign. Why? Because the mind keeps bringing back the things it hasn't yet processed. An unclosed loop takes up mental space until it's closed. And if that person still hasn't been able to close that loop, it means there's a large space in her mind reserved for her ex. And while you're trying to fill that space, you're actually sitting in an empty seat. My girlfriend said something very clear about this. If a woman talks about her ex a lot, she either still loves him or is still very angry at him. Both show the same thing. Something hasn't ended yet. That sentence summarizes a lot. Second sign, she continues following her ex on social media, watching his stories, liking his posts. Now, we need to be very careful here because there are gray areas on this topic. Everyone has a past, and she doesn't have to block every ex. But let me say this, someone who has truly closed a past relationship doesn't actively follow that person's social media, doesn't regularly watch their stories, doesn't like their posts. Why? Because these behaviors are keeping that connection alive. It's sending the message, I'm still here, I'm still following you, in the digital space. And this message is being sent even if unconsciously. I saw this in a situation a male friend of mine went through. He had started talking to someone new. Everything was nice, but the woman was watching every story her ex posted. My friend noticed this and asked about it. The woman said, just because. But she was still curious. It was actually a sign of a relationship that hadn't ended yet. And that relationship started to shake not long after. Digital behaviors are the mirror of mental state. Third sign, she makes comparisons with her ex, consciously or unconsciously. This is perhaps the most painful sign, because sometimes it comes very openly. You wouldn't do this, but he would, or he never upset me like this. But sometimes it comes very subtly, saying, interesting, he liked the same movie too. Saying, you two think similarly. Saying, he used to do that too. These small sentences show that her ex is still a reference point in her mind and hasn't been forgotten. And you can never compete with a reference point, because that reference point has been idealized. Memory shows the past as better or worse than it actually was. And if you're constantly being compared to that idealized version, this is not a healthy relationship. In psychology, this is called Idealization of the past. And unfortunately, this is the sign of a heart that hasn't yet healed.
Fourth sign. She says she's just friends with her ex, but this friendship is very intense and boundless.
Bro, this is a very sensitive topic, and we need to be very careful here. Being friends with exes is possible, but this friendship needs to have limited and healthy boundaries. If she's texting her ex late at night for long periods, if she consults him on every important decision, if he's the first person she calls when she has a problem, this is not just friendship. This is the continuation of an emotional dependency. And this emotional dependency means there's no space being made for you. Because she's meeting her emotional needs from that person, no matter how good a person you are, that need is already being met by someone else. This is a very important point. Emotional closeness is the foundation of romantic closeness. If that foundation is occupied by someone else, you can't build on top of it.
Fifth sign. She can't fully focus on the new relationship, always keeps a distance.
This is perhaps the most subtle but deepest sign. Everything is going nicely, but somehow you just can't get truly close. Conversations stay on the surface. You can't reach emotional depth. When serious topics come up, she avoids them or changes the subject. When conversations about the future come up, she gets uncomfortable. Bro, this behavioral pattern generally shows this. That person appears open to a new relationship, but emotionally is still occupied. She's trying to open a new door without fully closing the old one. And this half-open state leaves you in constant uncertainty and keeps wearing you out. In psychology, this is called emotional unavailability. And this situation doesn't change no matter how hard you try. It just keeps exhausting you. Because the problem isn't in you, it's in her feelings and thoughts. A friend of mine described this like this. When I got into something new without truly getting over my past relationship, I felt like I was seeing the new guy through a blurry pane of glass. I could see everything, but couldn't quite touch it. This metaphor is very powerful. A relationship seen through glass is not a real relationship. Sixth sign. She reacts excessively to news or things she sees about her ex. Her ex has started seeing someone new. When she hears this news, she either gets excessively upset or tries to appear excessively indifferent. Both are signs of the same thing. Someone who has truly closed a past relationship displays a neutral attitude toward their ex's new life. They neither get excessively upset nor put on a performative show of indifference. They simply say, "Okay, they're living their life, I'm living mine," and don't concern themselves with it. But if that news creates a crisis, if it's talked about for hours, if her mood changes dramatically, that's a very clear sign. Because only things that are truly cared about create such strong reactions. And if her ex can still create such strong reactions, that relationship is still mentally ongoing. She hasn't been able to forget him. Now, I need to ask you the most important question. So what should you do in this situation? And I'm going to be honest with you. First, if you're seeing these signs, don't deny it. Definitely don't say, "Maybe I'm misreading it. Maybe this is normal." See what you're seeing. Second, talk. Clearly, calmly, and respectfully. I want to talk to you about this. I feel like your past relationship is still very fresh for you, and this is deeply affecting me. This sentence is neither an accusation nor begging, just an honest observation. Third, listen to the person across from you. And don't just look at what they say, look at their behavior. Because people don't always tell the truth, but their behavior always reflects the truth. And if after the conversation the same signs continue, the time has come to make the greatest self-respect decision. To walk away. Quietly, gently, but clearly. Because you didn't come into this world to be the transition bridge someone waits at while getting over their old relationship. You are a destination, not a stopover. Stop being a bandage. And let me say this practically too. To be able to notice these kinds of feelings and behaviors from the start, you need to carry a calm and observant energy. In a tense or approval-seeking mode, you can't read and see these signals. Your clothes sitting right on your shoulders, a light fragrance, eye contact, and a clean appearance make you feel self-assured. And when you feel self-assured, you see more clearly. When you see more clearly, you make better decisions. Small details provide great clarity. Finally,
Let me say this to you, bro. You can't build your future with someone who is chasing their past. And you can't change this. Only the other person can change it. Only they can close that door. The only thing you can do is know your own value and demand a place worthy of that value. Because you're not here to be someone's second plan. You're here to be someone's first choice. Don't forget this.